There's new controversy at Twitter. After years of pressure over Donald Trump's presence on the platform and near constant complaints from investors about his job performance, Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey announced that he is leaving his role at the company. On the day Dorsey announced his departure, Twitter's stock price initially skyrocketed, but it quickly changed direction and plummeted back down more than 17% since that peak. In a letter to employees, Dorsey explained that the company's chief technology officer, Parag Agrawal, is immediately taking over for him. As a big tech firm with hundreds of millions of users, Twitter has enormous influence over politics, which Dorsey wasn't afraid to use. But immediately after the announcement, it became apparent that the new CEO isn't so fond of the First Amendment. In less than 24 hours after the shift, major new policies from the social media giant indicate that new crackdowns may be on the horizon. Here's everything you need to know about Twitter's changing of the guard. Jack Dorsey co-founded Twitter in 2006 as a microblogging site where users could send out brief messages to update their friends throughout the day. Over the next few years, the site became popular among journalists, politicians, and celebrities alike to grow their brands and notoriety. Today, with a market cap of nearly $35 billion, Twitter has over 211 million daily active users, making it an important gatekeeper for the global flow of ideas. But Dorsey's tenure has been far from smooth sailing. He's faced multiple attempted ousters from shareholders and investment firms like Elliott Management and Silver Lake. Dorsey is also the CEO of Square, a mobile payments company. So when Dorsey said he was going to go live in Africa for 3 to 6 months while still running both companies, some investors said that both companies were suffering from his already divided attention. One firm quietly gained a large stake in Twitter in what's called a hostile takeover, acquiring huge amounts of stock in order to assert control over the direction of the company. They tried to force Jack out of his job because they didn't like his performance, but Dorsey and his leadership team were able to stave off the threat. Even outside the boardroom, Dorsey has made a lot of enemies over the past decade and a half. He was called to testify in Congress about potential Russian interference in the 2016 elections. There, Dorsey assured lawmakers that the level of interference was relatively small, but that the company would continue to monitor foreign influence on their platform. He has testified to Congress on other occasions as well, addressing issues like Section 230 of the United States Code, which is used to, in part, protect big tech and social media companies from liability. But Twitter has also been accused of shadow banning conservative accounts, meaning that they completely or partially block a user or their posts with the intention of making it appear to others that they've not been banned. Shadow banning may involve a post being hidden from all users, except for the one person who originally posted it. Conservative actress Gina Carano was apparently shadow banned earlier in 2021. While logged in on Twitter, Carano's profile didn't appear when her name was entered into the search bar, even though she had over 1 million followers. To find her profile, users had to click on the People tab. And as progressive news outlet Vice reported in a bombshell 2018 investigation, other victims of shadow banning reportedly include RNC Committee Chair Ronna McDaniel, Donald Trump Jr. spokesman, former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, and current Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz and Jim Jordan. What do all those people have in common? Twitter has consistently denied that they censor conservatives, but after the January 6th riots at the Capitol and an uproar from 350 Twitter employees, Jack Dorsey outright banned Donald Trump from the platform, even though he was still the sitting president of the United States. And now that Jack Dorsey is gone, it's unlikely that things will get any better under Parag Agrawal. Almost immediately after Dorsey announced his resignation, one of Agrawal's past tweets surfaced. From journalist Andy Ngo to the Daily Wire's Michael Knowles, critics described it as both racist and indicative of a bias that's likely to continue under Agrawal's leadership. In 2010, Agrawal tweeted an apparent quote from The Daily Show, saying, "If they are not going to make a distinction between Muslims and extremists, then why should I distinguish between white people and racists?" Here's the segment of The Daily Show where that clip originally appeared.
But guys, you're just feeding into this. Why don't you try and change people's minds instead?
Well, John, if they're not going to make a distinction between Muslims and violent extremists, then why should I take the time to distinguish between decent, fearful white people and racists?
Okay.
And then in November 2020, Agrawal told MIT Technology Review that Twitter does not need to be, quote, bound by the First Amendment, and that discourse on the platform should be policed in a way that reflects, quote, how the times have changed. He also implied that Twitter should play a role in promoting certain voices and sources of information while suppressing others in a bid to, quote, direct people's attention. It already seems like Agrawal may be laying the foundation for the new Twitter. One day after Dorsey's announcement, Twitter enacted a new ban that restricts sharing videos or photos without consent on the platform. Now, the company says the move is designed to help curb the misuse of media to harass, intimidate, and reveal the identities of private individuals, which disproportionately impacts women, activists, dissidents, and members of minority communities. But rules like this one raise the question of who exactly is allowed to report news and share stories. It appears that this may be targeted in part at independent journalists like Andy Ngo, who have exposed violent members of Antifa and other organizations using Twitter, or James O'Keefe, whose influential undercover journalism has resulted in numerous bombshell reports from inside legacy media outlets and big tech companies like Twitter. Elon Musk reacted to the news in very Elon Musk fashion with this meme. Dorsey's exit means that the battle for free expression online has only just begun. As Agrawal takes Dorsey's spot on the front lines, the ball is in Twitter's court, for now. You can track all the latest developments on this story at dailywire.com. I'm Cabot Phillips. Thanks for watching.